Rain had a strange way of revealing truth. That's what he would later say, because the day he saw her, soaked to the bone and hammering a loose fence board like it was her only lifeline, something inside him shifted. The lonely rich rancher who owned more acres than he could count found himself staring at a girl who had nothing except determination and a pain she tried desperately to hide. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he would soon discover she had been living on his land for weeks, quietly, secretly, heartbreakingly homeless. And before the story was over, he would learn that some fences are fixed, not with nails, but with kindness that heals two broken souls at once. He rode his horse through the storm that morning. The sky split open and roaring. The fences along the north pasture had been giving him trouble for months. But what stopped him wasn't the gadget, was the sight of a small figure kneeling in the mud. A young woman in drenched clothes, her shaking hands gripping a hammer, driving a nail through the loose board with a kind of desperate fury. She didn't hear him approach. She didn't even look up. And when she swayed from exhaustion, catching herself on the post, he felt something twist in his chest. No ranch hand worked like that. No stranger fixed fences for free. So who was she, and why was she here, alone, in the storm? He called out to her. And when she finally turned, he noticed it fear behind her eyes, like she expected trouble. And that was the moment he realized her story would not be simple, and neither would the impact she was about to have on his life. She apologized before he even said a word. She said she'd just been trying to help, that she'd leave right away, that she didn't want to be a bother. Her voice cracked on that last part. He asked her name. She gave it softly, Emily. That name would stay with him forever. She stood to leave, but her knees buckled, and he stepped forward on instinct, catching her before she hit the mud. The moment he touched her, he understood she was cold, weak, starving, someone who hadn't been taken care of in a long time. The rain poured harder, washing mud from her face and revealing bruises along her jaw. Old ones. He swallowed hard. Whoever had done that, whoever had made her flinch when he lifted his hand to brush hair from her face, had stolen more from her than a home. He took her to the ranch house. The biggest structure for miles, though. It hadn't felt like a home since his wife died 6 years ago. It was too quiet, too empty. He lit the fireplace while she stood near the door, refusing to sit, refusing to relax, refusing even to remove her wet coat. She kept saying she'd leave once the rain stopped. He told her she wasn't going anywhere until she was warm and safe. She stared at him, as if she didn't believe such a thing existed anymore. But he kept talking, gently, calmly, until she finally took a seat, on the edge of the chair, like someone ready to run any moment. Later, when she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted beyond resistance, he stepped outside to think. Lightning lit the hills. He walked to the barn and found a pile of blankets tucked behind the hay. A small pile. A thin pillow. Food wrappers. His chest tightened. She hadn't been passing through. She hadn't been wandering. She had been living there, on his land, for days, maybe weeks. And the fence she'd been fixing? It hadn't been the first one. Suddenly he saw the clues. Boards he assumed his ranch hands had fixed. Chores done before dawn. Tools moved back into place more neatly than his workers ever left them. She had been helping him because she had nowhere else to go. And when he looked back toward the house, the light from the window glowing warm again, the storm, he realized something he hadn't felt in years. He wanted someone to stay. He cooked her breakfast the next morning. She jumped awake at the smell, panic flashing across her face until she remembered where she was. He told her she didn't owe him anything. She insisted she did. She said she'd repay him by working, cleaning, fixing fences, repairing tools. She wouldn't take charity. She had pride, even if life had stripped everything else from her. He respected that more than he could say. Over the next days, she worked harder than any hired hand he'd ever had. But the way she flinched when someone raised a hand too fast, the way she froze whenever a truck drove up the dirt road, the way she apologized for things that weren't her fault, those were signs of a story she couldn't hide forever. One night she finally told him. She told him about the boyfriend who'd locked her out after she lost her job, how she had nowhere to go, how she'd wandered until she found the old barn on his land and thought, just for a night. But one night turned into many, and she stayed because it was quiet, safe, peaceful. She said she didn't mean to trespass. She didn't mean to be a burden. She just didn't want to die out there. He listened, and when she finished, she waited for him to tell her to leave. But he didn't. He offered her something she never expected, a real room, real work, and a chance to rebuild. She cried then. Not loud, Not messy, just tears slipping silently down her cheeks like she'd forgotten how to cry and was learning all over again. He told her she didn't have to be afraid anymore, and for the first time she believed it. Weeks turned into months, and Emily slowly became part of the ranch, part of its rhythm, part of its heartbeat. His workers respected her. The horses loved her, and he found himself looking for her in every room, listening for her voice, waiting for her smile after long days. But her past wasn't done with her yet. Her ex-boyfriend showed up one afternoon, roaring down the dirt road, demanding she come home. She froze, trembling. The rancher stepped between them, his voice calm but steel hard. He told the man she wasn't going anywhere. She didn't choose. And she chose to stay. The ex lunged, but the ranch hand stopped him, and the sheriff called earlier escorted him off the property. Emily cried again, but this time in relief. She realized something right then. She wasn't alone anymore. This ranch, this man, these people, they were her home now. Life didn't change overnight, but it changed slowly, beautifully. She gained weight from steady meals. Her hands healed from rough work. She learned to laugh again, softly at first, then freely. And the rancher, who had lived in silence for years, found himself speaking more, smiling more, living more. They built trust one day at a time. They fixed fences together, not just the wooden ones, but the ones inside themselves. And one evening, long after the sun slipped behind the hills, he asked her something that made her breath catch. Not a declaration, not a proposal. Not yet. Just a question offered gently. Emily, will you stay? Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to? She didn't answer with words. She stepped forward and hugged him, slow, trembling, but sure. The kind of hug that said she was done running, done hiding, ready to build something real. The lonely rich rancher who once thought he had everything learned the truth that day. A home means nothing without someone to share it with. And the homeless girl who once had nothing found the one thing she never expected: belonging, love, and a life she could finally call her own. Because sometimes the people who fix our broken fences end up fixing us too.